Hello again, everybody. Welcome to the second half of our double here tonight on the South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network. We began with Inside the Pigskin, and we will conclude with 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. I have a crew out here that's been patiently waiting, and now we're on. All right, Eric Katz, welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be back with everybody.
Yeah, well, we're glad to have you, and we really are. You're a very big part of the show. And let everybody know about Eric Katz that he will be back in action on Monday nights, in addition to coming on our show as one of the lead people on Fire Up Wisconsin. So I'm expecting some big things out of you and Jeremy Ballrick and Candy Ebling to make that sure that show is as good as I know you guys are going to put into it and make it. All right, Eric.
Yes,
So
sir.
keep making sure that you pound those topics in the chat room. All right, Jordan Long. Welcome back, wherever time zone you're in.
All right, exactly. Now I'm on Ohio. Last week I was in Colorado. Thanks again for having me, Scott.
Trying to keep track of your time zone. I'm too senile to try to figure. I'll let you know, and we'll know whether it's ever past your bedtime or way before it. And another guy we're glad to have back. What is this a welcome back party? My goodness, Warren Brewster. Miss you, but glad to have you.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Thank you. Good to be back.
Yeah, George, I'd like to say I can miss you, but I really don't because you're only on like 5 to 7 minutes ago. So
good to be back on with all these baseball guys.
Yeah, got a loaded show tonight. Talk about MLB postseason. So stay with us, and we'll have a few parting shots from, I believe, Eric, George, Jordan, and if Warren Brewster has one, fine. I'm not taking one tonight. I'm just going to let you roll. Instead, what we're going to do, though, George Eichhorn, all you're going to do is give updates on the Miami Marlins, Dodgers games, as well as the Yankees and the Tigers. If in Detroit, we really want to see it anyways.
Yeah.
Save it for a little bit. All right, on to the first topic. MLB will use same pitch clock rules for postseason. Eric, you liking it or not?
I like it because it's clearly worked out well this year. The game times are a lot shorter. I think it's something that definitely the game needed, especially just with games lasting 3+ hours and people not, especially the fans, not getting out of there until about 3 o'clock in the morning. I think it's a good thing that they're keeping it. I think why would you want to switch what the players are already used to just to go back what they haven't done all year? So I'm okay with it.
What about you, Jordan?
I think it's great. I mean, I agree with Eric. It's cut down the baseball times. I think last year we had 3.5, 4-hour games in the postseason. At least it'll be at least 2.5, maybe 3 hours to watch a game. And it's cutting down the time. That's all you want. And it does make sense that they're going to use it for the postseason because they used it in the regular season. Like Eric said, they're used to it. Keep on working since it's not broken.
Okay, Warren.
I totally agree. It's worked all season. The guys are getting used to it. It's something that they've got to continue to carry on with and not make any changes. It's working. Games are much quicker. It's a faster paced game, and I think the fans will be way more in tune and enjoy it way more than having a lot of dead time.
All right, George.
Well, we got a couple scores, Scott. First of all, the bottom of the 8th, the Yankees over Detroit 5-1. Miami has defeated the Dodgers 6-3, and the Brewers have defeated the Pirates 7-3.
Very good. Thanks.
And the first place Twins won over the Guardians 8-3. Yeah, I think so. I think you don't go changing the rule again in the postseason. I don't like that idea of them not doing it. I mean, you should be consistent, which they want to be with the pitch clock, and yeah, I'm in favor of that, carrying it over, like you said, into the postseason. I think that's a good move and the best move to do.
Reality is, if this is working, which we know by the numbers it is, that's when you don't change up. Some of the other rule changes you just don't implement. You just don't do it. The Ghost Runner, I'd struggle with that in the postseason. The pitch clock will definitely not struggle. George, great segue, by the way, now that you talk about the Minnesota Twins, because that's where we're going to go with the next one. But before we do so, let everybody know that 108 Stitches Baseball Talk is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. All you need to do is just simply participate in the chat room. Otherwise, send your topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Want to advertise cost efficiently? Call me 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Website www.southfloridatribune.com. Twitter @TribuneSouth, or you want to call it X, whatever it is, @TribuneSouth. Nonetheless, Candy Edling is behind the scenes, and right now, Pensman Sports is making some comments. So we're going to go out there and go to Pensman. Thanks, Mr. Pensman, for being on. I agree. All right, well, you fall into GMTA. Great minds think alike. And yes, I guess, Eric, you're not the only one who likes the Yankees. So does Pensman. And of course, let's talk about Stanton's 400th home run. Don't worry, he's hit a fair share of long ones. I saw him take on the Marlins at Marlins Park, and he hit some bang bombers there. All right, with that said, okay, we will segue to the next topic. Minnesota Twins rookie Royce Lewis had a career-high 6 RBIs and a grand slam in a 20-6 thrashing over the Cleveland Guardians Monday night. Lewis, rookie third baseman, tied the franchise record with his 3rd grand slam of the season, all in 8 games. Has 4 career grand slams in 56 games in the majors. All right, George Eichhorn, you decide to read that score off. You get to lead with the topic.
Well, I'll tell you what, when I heard that, I couldn't help but think back to 1968, Scott, and Jim Northrup. Jim Northrup, the Gray Fox, the original Gray Fox with the Detroit Tigers. He was known as Grand Slam Northrup because he hit a bunch of Grand Slams. And so, what was accomplished in Minnesota on Monday night has been done before over a period of time in baseball history, but it's very, very rare. This kid's got a lot going for him. And I think Minnesota obviously is going to run away with this division now. They've shown that they're putting more and more distance between themselves and the Guardians. So, but yeah, the old slammer, I love it. It's one of the greatest plays in baseball, the Grand Slam.
Okay, we'll turn over to Jordan.
It's interesting about that stat. I mean, you look at a 26 game and you think, it's a it's a football score. But 26 is unbelievable. And that guy had 6 RBIs and he's had, a couple of grand slams already in his career. It's unbelievable. Like George said, I like seeing a grand slam. You don't see it every day. And the fact of the matter is he's had a few this season. It's unbelievable. Plus, I think the Twins are going to end up winning that division no matter what. So it's good to see him hit with some power to help his team win.
Eric?
Well, hats off to him. I mean, grand slams are always great. It's just they are just they're very rare to come by when a batter just happens to hit one right on the screws and boom, he has himself 4 RBI. I mean, the Twins have gotten it done all year long with their pitching. I mean, hitting, they haven't been great hitting wise, so it's great that they're able to put up some runs because clearly they're about to run away with the American League Central Division. So, good. I mean, good for him. I mean, the kid obviously has promise, and I think the Twins have themselves a keeper there.
Warren?
Well, you see a young kid like that, a lot of good hitters over a period of time struggle with bases loaded, and they put too much pressure on himself. Obviously, this kid can handle the pressure, and it's coming up big. So it's something that, as Minnesota gets to the postseason, it's something that he won't be scared, and he'll be able to produce and come up big in big spots when they need hits and they need to score some runs. Obviously he's driving in runs and he's made a difference in that ball club. It's moving forward. They're just going to be that much stronger as he gets more experience.
Warren, I want you to react to this comment in the chat room, please.
Sure.
Pensman Sports says, when I was younger, grand slams were routine. Now, nowadays, it's rarely that we see them. Have any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, they pitch around guys now. You're aware who the home run hitters are, and they get pitched around and don't get pitches to hit. They'll pitch around them and pitch on the corners, pitch off the plate, and try to get ahead of them and get them to chase stuff. So you don't see as many grand slams today because the ball's not put in play as much as it was in the past. But they're all hitting home runs, but there's a lot of solo 1-2 run shots and things like that. You don't see too many grand slams anymore because there's just not that many base runners.
Great question, Penson. Go ahead.
I wanted to add to that. Part of it is, part of the reason it's not so, we don't see it as much anymore is because pitchers nowadays, they have access to more information. They're getting the scouting reports on what these guys absolutely cannot hit. Like for example, Stanton can't lay off the slider a lot of the time, and they have access to a lot more information. They got the strike zone, like they got parts of the strike zone now split up into a puzzle where they have to throw it here and he's not going to hit it. So there's a lot more information the pitchers have now on a batter than they did before.
Excellent points all the way around. Anybody else want to add to that?
Well,
You called them intelligence reports, didn't they, Warren?
yes, right. Back in the day, it was, you look at the scouting reports and it was up and in, down and away to every hitter, which is, that's obvious. But major league hitters generally, for the most part, the first thing I found out, 90% of them could handle one side of the plate or the other. And they cut the plate in half and they handle. If you threw it on that side of the plate, they didn't miss it. If it was on the side that they couldn't handle, you could get them to chase it. So you'd learn right away what hitters could handle, what side of the plate, and which ones couldn't. A lot of it was the way their hands were, the way they stood at the plate, if they were on the plate, if they were off the plate. You could kind of get a sense of what they were trying to do. And you go into that zone and find out in a hurry what they can handle and what they can't. So that's, it's a lot of scouting reports, but as a pitcher, you get a feel for what guys are trying to do, what they're doing in certain situations. If it's a time where they've got to hit the ball the other way and try to score a run, they're going to look for balls outside, but in the outer part of the plate, so you just keep the ball in on them and then you throw off the plate out there, make them chase that. And then throw strikes inside. It's just the opposite if they want to pull the ball. So, a lot of hitters, they cut the plate in two and they look on one side and can't handle the other side.
Any closing thoughts by any of you? Okay. All right. Let's go to the American League West. Well, you talk about a candy division. This one is it. I mean, it really is. I'm looking at these divisions, and this one is just unbelievable. So let me break down the top three. Seattle, 77 up, 60 down, 562 winning percentage. How can you get closer than where the Houston Astros are? 78, 61, 561 percentages. By the way, for whatever's worth, 561 is the area code for Palm Beach County. Had to throw that localized a little bit. So, and last, they're tied for first place, and Texas 76 and 61. Fives are wild, 5-5, 5-1 game back. All right, Eric, how do you size up this American League West situation?
It's like, it's going to be a thriller in September for sure. I mean, you have three teams. The Rangers got off hot. They led the division for most of the year. The Astros were kind of off to a slower start. Part of that being Altuve was out Altuve has kind of been banged up all year. And obviously you have the Mariners, who have a thing for trading their closers at the deadline as of late. But they all of a sudden they got hot and had a pair of 8-game winning streaks during the month of August, and now they find themselves at first place. And the Astros are defending champs. I mean, they've been there before. They've done that. They've seen everything. They've seen, and there's a reason that they won 2 World Series rings. One of them being not earned. I think it's going to be a wild finish. As I like to tell people, I'm like, when you see a division like that, this is what baseball is all about. It's all about that team getting that slight edge to run away with it. But it's going to be a fun race, and it's going to be one that people are going to be paying attention to because Houston, you have company.
You know what, Eric? One thing I always appreciate about you is your brashness. I really do. But this time, not earned to me almost reminds me of a sales technique that I used to use a lot called the velvet hammer. That's actually pretty good. Yeah. So, all right, you know what, Jordan? There's one right up your neck of the woods. So there you go. Jordan will know this. Yankees used to hit grand slams in the 90s, early 2000s. It's great to see grand slams more often, right? Want to respond to
yeah.
Benjamin?
I mean, it's certainly true. We saw more grand slams in the 90s and the 2000s, but now we have so many scouting reports that it's harder to hit a grand slam. Like Warren said earlier, they pitch around them. So, But going to this American League West Division, I mean, I thought that the Rangers were going to run away. Well, they've come back to earth. Houston had a huge lead over Seattle. Now Seattle's taking the advantage. The thing is that luckily all these teams do play each other down the stretch. So we'll get to know who's actually going to play hot baseball late in September, and that's where you want to win the division. I no matter who doesn't win the division, I think at least one of them is going to go to the playoffs. I'm not sure if two are, but either way, you're just battling for a wild card and the division. It doesn't matter though, as long as you're in, you have a chance to do something special.
You know what? I'm going to say that. Well, I know we're going to talk about this in a moment. As long as the Astros don't get the division, I'll be happy. Well,
Agree, Pensman.
TBD.
Agree.
All right. Well, we're going to, before we go over to it, though, we'll let Warren talk about this, and then we'll segue over to the National League Central.
Well, that's what you see now. Seattle got hot right now, and they're the forerunner and they're leading the division right now. But Houston and Texas, Houston's the champion. So until they're beaten and knocked out of the playoffs, they're still the champion. They're the team to beat. And Texas, with a lot of young talent, both teams, both Seattle and Texas, have a lot of young talent. And it just to see if the cream rises to the top, see what happens. Right now, basically, I think all three of those teams are just playing for seedings where they're going to play in the playoffs. The only other team that's really has a chance for wild card berth is Toronto. And then that could happen. Seattle, Houston, and Texas knock each other off or knock one of those teams out, and Toronto makes it in the playoffs. But it's going to be tough. It's a tough division. It's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be some exciting baseball, even though it's on the West Coast, so it's at a little later time than people on the East Coast will be aware of. But it's going to be some exciting baseball coming down the stretch.
Hey, George, you have last word on this.
Yeah, I really, really look forward to this race. I mean, Seattle, they kind of come out of nowhere as far as I'm concerned. They got a good young team. My two guys, you got Scherzer in Texas, and you got Verlander in Houston. So a lot of Detroit fans will be watching the exploits of those two teams because of the fact that obviously they spent some of their best years here in Detroit. It's going to be a dogfight. It's incredibly close. It really is. And I was like you guys. I thought Texas was going to run away with it, but boy, oh boy, they've really come back. It's going to be fun, though. That's what baseball is all about. You want to have close races in the month of September. Obviously, you want to have these wild card berths decided if you're a fan, of your team. Of course, you want to wait till the very end, but you want them to win. So it involves more pennant chases, and that's what I like about baseball.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt we can't overlook Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander. And as we segue over to the National League, let's talk about the Dusty Baker effect about what he'll do in with the Houston Astros. Obviously, Dusty Baker, to me, is just an unbelievable baseball guy, manager, whatever you want to call it. All right, we're going to shift over, though, to Eric's favorite division, National League Central Division, the Milwaukee Brewers. 76 up, going down for the 5-5-5. And they added Josh Donaldson, and, of course, the Cubbies are back behind them. 74 and 64, a couple of games out. All right, Eric. Josh Donaldson, will he help the Brewers out?
No, part of the reason is I think they have their third baseman already with Andre Monasterio, who's been really nice this year. Really young player, has got some speed. He's shown that he can hit for contact, which is something the Brewers have needed for a very long time now, rather than last year, which was a home run or nothing offense. But I don't see him, I could see him maybe coming in later in the year to be like a DH or maybe play some third or whatever when you're resting him. But I don't see him being a postseason guy. I think, I think they got him just for the veteran presence, just what he's done, because they essentially got him for nothing. And it'd be kind of like a situation when the Cardinals got John Smoltz after he got lit up in Boston. Which his final game was against the Yankees, which I thoroughly enjoyed. But I think that he's just there for a veteran presence. He can talk to the young guys on how to handle the postseason and how to, in some cases, get in their opponent's head. But, I don't see him really having a sizable impact because I feel like Father Time has got him.
Well, I'd like to think leadership counts for some. Anybody knows it better than Warren Brewster. I don't know, but you know what? I'm going to let you. But before I turn over to you, Warren, Pensman makes up another great point. He'd like to see Seattle win because they haven't done anything since Ken Griffey Jr. and last year. Excellent point, Pensman. Love that. So Ken Griffey Jr. All right. With that said, okay, we'll let you comment on what Eric just said, Warren. You know, we talk about leadership, Donaldson. You know what your take is on the NL Central. We got a loaded deck here.
Right. Well, that's what it takes is somebody that, a leader in the clubhouse, even though he just came into the clubhouse, but he's a well-respected player, and all these young players will look up to him, and he can be a big asset, even if it's not on the field itself, but in the clubhouse and in the dugout, explaining to hitters what to look for or certain pitchers, what the guy's done to him in the past, just little nuances that really make a big difference. I know when Pete came to join us in Philadelphia, it upped the whole level of our team. Just his presence just upped everything, the level. Everybody played harder just because you respected the man. And I think Josh Donaldson's definitely regained respect through his career. He's had a great career, and he's a person that is a piece that could fit in there and really be a difference maker for that organization. Because once you get to postseason, everybody's at 0-0, and the Brewers have shown in the past they've got some good pitching, and they can be tough to beat.
Well, I will mention one thing before I turn over to Jordan, okay? And that's this. Once you get to the postseason, new heroes can emerge. I actually had one of my shows here called Buddy Biancalana Jr. when he came out of nowhere for the Kansas City Royals. And I'll tell you, that was the magical year that the Royals had. So you never know where these heroes are going to come from. All right, Jordan, go ahead.
Well, with Josh Donaldson, I agree with Eric and Warren. He's a veteran presence. He may, step to the plate as a designated hitter or even for late game heroics, but like Warren said, he's a guy there for leadership and talking to these young guys who haven't played in postseason ball before, and helping them for to figure out to play in these huge games. As for the NL Central Division, I don't see how the Cubs win this division. Luckily, though, both the Cubs and the Brewers play in the last series of the season. But either way, I think the Cubs do get a wild card and the Brewers get the first seed, or the division. But it'll probably come down to that series, because if the Cubs are only down, 2 games, they win that series, they win the division. So it's going to come down to the end.
Now, Jordan, before you give up on the Cubs, this is a Milwaukee resident speaking. This is a Milwaukee resident speaking to you. Keep in mind that lineup can bash. Cody Bellinger is almost back to being not quite MVP Bellinger, but productive Bellinger, and that lineup can hit. And just having a guy like Justin Steele, who's having an unbelievable year, and once you get Stroman back, that team has a chance. I really believe that team has a chance.
They do, but the thing is that I'm worried about with the Cubs, and we've seen it this year, is that they can have the offense, but the pitching goes away, or they'll have a great outing by, Stroman when he was healthy, or Kyle Hendricks or Steele, but there is no offense. So that's what scares me, and that's the reason why I think the Brewers have the better chance. Yes, the Cubs do have one of the better lineups, but can the offense keep going, especially when they actually do get the pitching going?
Well, they've been red hot in September, and we've seen Adbert Alzolay, who was supposed to be a starter. He's become a pretty good closer. Yes, yes, every closer in baseball has a time where they blow saves. They just, they come out the pen, and whatever they throw down the plate looks like a beach ball to the hitter, and it, particularly at Wrigley Field, it gets bashed onto Waveland Avenue. I think I think the Cubs, I think you're underestimating the Cubs, Jordan, which is a little surprising coming that you are a Cubs fan. I think potentially that, yet to your point, that yes, the final series of the year could come down to Milwaukee, which I actually might get tickets for that game on another note, but that's for another day. But I think, but Jordan, that lineup can hit. That you've seen them. They put up a 4 spot tonight against San Francisco. We saw them put up 7+ against the Cincinnati Reds in Cincinnati, where I was seeing nothing but balls fly into the river underneath that little bridge. But don't rule out the Cubs, Jordan, and don't sound like it's going to be the curse all over again.
As long as we get it doesn't matter. If it's a wild card, I'm happy. We haven't been in this position since the COVID, the weird COVID year. So I'd be happy. All of a sudden we have a baseball show
George and I and Warren are watching a ping pong match here between you two, and I think it's a whole lot of fun, actually. So I don't know how ping pong got on this show, but all I have to do is say Eric Katz and Jordan Long, and the word ping pong just entered this broadcast. All right, good stuff, man. I love it when you guys go at each other. I think it's. I don't have to say anything. All right, George, attempt to top their act because I'm going to ask predictions from everybody in terms of just division winners, and we're going to go. All right, John.
Yeah. Well, it is a tough act to follow. You're right, Scott. But 7-3, the Cubs. The Cubs in their last 10 have been 7-3, and obviously the heat's on Milwaukee. I mean, it is a very interesting race, and the wild card race. Oh my gosh! I mean, I know Philadelphia and the Cubs are the wild card teams, the first two in the NL right now, but there's a lot of competition right behind them, snipping at their heels. It's fun. It's exciting. Wrigleyville has got to be extremely excited, but so is Brewtown, Milwaukee. They've got some great things going there. So it's one heck of a race. And the fact that those guys are so close to each other, my gosh, you can have fans go to each site, drive, in just a few hours time away from each other. Right. So I know a lot of the Cubs tickets are probably more sold out than the Brewers are, but still, it's going to be fun watching those series at near the end because, oh my God, you're going to have fans on both sides rooting. But and getting back to Donaldson, like you guys have mentioned, I mean, he's a veteran, he's a key player. I remember Billy Martin brought a catcher in. Scott, you probably remember, named Duke Sims. Duke Sims, Billy Martin. Yep, and everybody's got their own. Remember Sean Casey, the mayor? Okay, they brought him in, the Tigers. Dave Bergman, a first baseman who did nothing, was a key component of the '84 Tigers championship with Sparky Anderson. So, all these teams do that. They bring in a guy that they think they can help in the clubhouse. And Josh Donaldson, I've always had the respect for. Things did not work out in Yankee Stadium for him, but he's got new life now with the Brew Crew.
I got to say one thing. People like Eric and Jordan, the way they go back and forth, make this a very interesting situation for me as I had to prepare these shows, because as I start to go out there and sense trends, and I like trends, and I like to go with them. So whatever I said to you, Eric, in pre-production, flush it down the toilet. He knows what I mean. So we'll leave it at that. So I don't care. But don't flush this down the toilet, because every one of you guys are going to make a prediction who comes out of the division. And we'll start with EK.
Well, in the NL Central, I see the Brewers coming out of it because I just think that they have the edge in the pitching, particularly with their big three. I mean, Peralta's back to being fastball Freddy. I mean, Woodruff, he was out most of the year, but man, he took apart Pittsburgh tonight. And then although Corbin's having a pedestrian year by like a lot of people's standards, he's still Corbin Burns. And I think having a vet like Wade Miley, who at one point was a folk hero for that team, I got to give Brewers, especially with how hot their offense has been this month. And the AL West, I got to give it to Seattle. I mean,
all right, so you're going Brewers. You're going the Brewers first, and then you're going Seattle second, right, Eric?
Yeah, and then AL West, I got to go Seattle. They just, to me, that the excitement's back and it's back in that city. I mean, they are going to will that team, and having a guy like Julio Rodriguez, oh man, And also to add to my Brewers prediction, Scott, we've talked about this for a while. Craig Counsell gives that team a fighting chance day in and day out.
Like it. All right, go ahead, Jordan. You're on the hook for the next one. Will we see another ping pong match ensue?
No, I agree with Eric. It's going to be the Brewers and Seattle. I just think Seattle's hot right now. They're going to continue it through, the end of the year. And I just think the Brewers, like Eric talked about, with their pitching, that's going to be the difference.
How kind of you.
They're not as hot as you and Eric, but they'll leave it low there. All right, Warren.
Well, I see Milwaukee. It's going to be tough for the Cubs to catch them. It's they've played well. They'll be a wild card team, but I don't think they can catch the Brewers. The Brewers they have too much pitching right now for the last 5 weeks of the season. In the AL West, I think Texas is going to come back. I think Bruce Bochy won't let those guys die. He's going to, he's a leader, and he's got a proven track record and I think they're going to come back and eventually take over the division again and win the division.
Hey, George.
I think the Brewers are going to win the Central. I am definitely thinking that our buddy Baker is going to win again down in Houston. Altuve tonight, guys. Home run in the first inning, home run in the second inning, home run in the third inning. When have you heard of that? From little Jose Altuve, he is back. He's serious. 3 home runs in his first 3 at-bats in the first 3 innings. A remarkable feat by Altuve. I saw them in town recently. The Tigers took game 1 of that series in a magical finish, which I wrote about in the South Florida Tribune. But the Astros came back and won the next 2. They hammered Detroit the next 2 days. So I'm still convinced that Houston is the team to beat in that division.
Well, you know what? Scott Service is doing a marvelous job up in Seattle. I like what the Mariners are doing. So, I'm going to stay with Seattle, and I got to go with the Brewers. I still think that Craig Counsell is the most underrated manager that I've seen in baseball. He really, really is. And I'm not going to back away from that, but it's good that we have various opinions. All right. But that said, we're going to have parting shots with anybody that wants to participate with them. Eric, lead off.
Well, like I wrote about this today. I mean, I got to give, the division to the Brewers. Craig Counsell is the best manager money can buy, period.
Okay. Fair enough. Jordan?
Well, I'm going to turn my attention to the NCAA football. We know that the CU Buffs beat TCU 45-42. They're now ranked number 22. The question for them, though, is can Shredder Sanders again throw for 500 and plus yards against Nebraska? If you don't beat Nebraska, there are going to be question marks in Colorado. But the big key, though, is what can you do in Pac-12 play? They play Oregon and USC, who are back-to-back weeks, who are also ranked in the top 20, I should say. So the question is, can you keep it going? I am happy they won 1 game because that's how much that the Buffs won last year. Just keep it going is all I ask.
All right, Warren.
Well, to me, the wild card in the National League East, or in the National League period, is going to be interesting as can be because you've got 3 teams out of all 3 divisions that have potential of making the playoffs. There's 6 spots open, and there's 9 teams fighting for those 6 spots. It's going to be a great race. I mean, Atlanta's got the division wrapped up. Dodgers have their division wrapped up, so they're 2 teams that are in. But 7 out of the other 9 are still up for grabs. 4 spots are still up for grabs out of those 7 teams, and it's going to be a wild race. Some teams get hot for a couple days, and they get up a couple games, and then they're down. They lose 5 in a row. The Giants have gone up and down. Arizona's come back. They were down for a while. Cincinnati's been up and down. And then there's also the Cubs. They've been up and down. So but they're on the up right now. So it's going to be a very interesting race. And in Miami, with the young team they have, they're still in the race. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the National League plays out. It's going to be very exciting in September.
Okay, George.
Yeah, I know we've talked about him a lot here, but the final leg of his career, Miguel Cabrera, what an awesome guy. 4 for 5 the other day against the White Sox in Chicago. He's passed like 6 or 7 big name hitters, marching up the 3,000 hit club, and he's got Adrian Beltre now on his site. He's done a great job. I mean, I know his power is not there. He's had, just a few home runs, but he's getting a lot of base hits, and he's obviously having so much fun. Every one of the teams that he visits is rewarding him with a gift, usually for his foundation, and then a nice other gift, let's call it, more personal gift. So it's got to be so much fun, obviously, for Miguel and his family as he gears up for the ending, and that ending will be in Detroit against the Cleveland Guardians on Sunday, October the 1st. So he closes out at home against Cleveland. So Miguel, hats off. Keep doing what you're doing. Rack up those hits and have fun.
Well, Penn's on a roll tonight, George. He thinks you are too. So there you go. You got yourself a fan out there.
Oh, hi, Bensman.
There you go. We'll go back to the Pens, man, again. We'll get there. I agree with Eric. They took a lot of series when they should have lost. All right. Well, that's good. I love. Here's the thing. Okay, the Miami Marlins are probably the luckiest team on the planet because Miguel Cabrera, when they played him, he was healthy and they drew well at the gate. So, in the past we've talked about Miggy's health before. If there was ever a year when he needed to be healthy, at least it was a year when he came to Miami, and that was still an unbelievable series. I had a chance to cover 2 or 3. Now, Jordan, here's the deal. Okay, I was impressed with Coach Prime, did a heck of a job, but don't worry. Okay, before you were born or even thought of, or probably really, 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 really young, okay, the Nebraska Cornhuskers used to beat the daylights out of the Colorado Buffaloes. But with that said, I'm going to bring this stat up because it's a different show. Okay, it's to show how far you've come. I don't mind a little versatility here. The cost to attend every CU game last year was $222. Room 222. Okay, no, without Karen Valentine and the rest of those people that are old enough to understand it anyways. Now, this year against Nebraska, $476. What do you get for it? You get to watch the Buffaloes beat the daylights out of the Cornhuskers. That's what's going to happen. I really believe that. So, let's face reality. Somebody's got to pay Coach Prime's salary when you can jack the prices up for something they feel is pretty good. And by the way, it doesn't hurt that they made some major progress. Polls. Get to another time. Jordan, I know you feel good about being on the baseball show. Is that correct?
Yep.
Is that right? Well, you'll feel good on Saturday when Colorado goes up 2-0.
That's true. I will.
That's what I have to say on.
No Tommy Frazier
that?
this time. No Tommy Frazier this time.
No Tom Osborne either for
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
Nebraska.
right. A lot of people are walking through that door. So, Jordan, all I can tell you is I'm riding the Jordan Long train here on this one. You brought it up, and I'm hammering it back. All right. But that said, this concludes this edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, but we're not done yet. Eric Katz, let everybody know how they get a hold of you.
You can follow me on my Twitter at SportsCN News, or you can follow me on my blog at bellyupsports.com.
Well, we have a stranger who just made himself an unstranger. Well, Vogel just wanted to stop by. I was at the Yankees. This Tiger Pretty Williams played national anthem, and Adam. Good stuff. Well, glad to see you again. All right, go ahead, Jordan.
You can follow me on Twitter at SportsScoop1. I have a blog that I write Mondays through Thursdays, with sometimes podcasts on Fridays at sports-scoop.com. I also have a show called Under Review that talks mainly about, Colorado sports, and that will air either Thursday or Friday. I just check my Twitter to see when I'm going to air a show.
I go to Warren Brewster next.
All
I
right.
even got the headphones on. Boy, this guy's making some progress.
Yes. I can be reached at Brewster, BRUSSTAR40 at gmail.com.
And you can also be seen when he's on this show
Yes.
on Tuesday nights as well. We enjoy having the WB. That doesn't stand for Warner Brothers. It stands for Warren Brewster.
That's right.
Had to do it. All right, George, go ahead.
Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air is the book, and you'll find a lot of great baseball announcers in that book, including our friends Ernie Harwell and Paul Carey, Ray Lane, Frank Beckman. There's so many great announcers. Detroit's had Ty Tyson. There's a link to the book at the end of my column on the South Florida Tribune under the Motor City Tribune. You can read me, and also you can follow me on LinkedIn, and also gicorn at yahoo.com are the easiest ways to get a hold of me.
All right. Well, last time here, just 108 Stitches Baseball Talk being broadcast around the world. The audio version, 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. We passed the 900 mark, so we're getting there. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Send your topic ideas at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Want to advertise cost efficiently? Call me at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Also, website www.southfloridatribune.com, Twitter /X at Tribune South. Candy Ebling is behind the scenes. Great show tonight. Every one of you guys are awesome, and I'm glad that we were able to incorporate ping pong into baseball. What a beautiful thing. And we will look for more of those trends in the coming weeks. I love looking for new trends, especially when they're entertaining and I don't have to say as much. All I get to do is go back and forth. And all right, I painted that picture. For those of you that are listening, and for those of you that see me, yes, I talk with my hands. And again, everybody says I talk about everything. Well, I'll let you be subjective and comment on the line. So, with that said, very delighted to have everybody on tonight. Warren, glad to have you back, and
Thanks,
look forward to seeing you as soon as possible. You let me know what your availability is.
All right.
You know, you have an open invite to come on anytime you want. George, well done tonight. We have some more work to do tomorrow. Jordan, Eric, steady as usual. Proud of both of you. So, on behalf of the chat room, and we appreciate all the chat room, especially Pensman, who got in there and was very active, and with everybody else here, I just want to thank everybody for joining us on this edition of 108 Baseball Talk, and we will catch you the next time. Have a great weekend, everybody. Even though it's hard to believe we only have a 4-day work week, and we're going to be back to the weekend, and I'll be covering the Miami Hurricanes and the Texas A&M Aggies on Saturday. Good night, everybody.